Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a legend on the show. I have Dr. John Gray on. John is the author of the most well known and trusted relationship book of all time, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. USA Today listed his book as one of the top 10 most influential books in the last quarter century. In hardcover, it was the number one best-selling book of the 1990s. Dr. Gray's books are translated into about 45 different languages in more than 100 countries, and it continues to be a bestseller today. So stay with us, share this out. I will have Dr. John Gray on in just a minute. And we are back. Let me bring John on. John, welcome to the show.
Happy to be with you.
I was telling, I did a live stream the other night after Ramey's event, and I said, at the end, Ramey asked me to hang out, and sitting there on the couch at one moment watching a movie with Ramey and John Gray, and I I looked down, I looked back, and I'm like, I can't believe this is my life right now. This is amazing. So it was so nice to meet you out there, and honored to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ken. I'm happy to be with you.
So John, I started this about 4 years ago, and it was literally to help people get unstuck in life. We all go through craziness in life, I think, and a lot of people get stuck. And so, that's what this is all about. Why don't we start with you talking about where it all started, where you were born and raised?
Well, when you say where it all started, I want to say in heaven. I grew up and came to planet Earth. I'm just being playful here. In Houston, Texas. And my mother was from California. My dad was from Oklahoma. And we're the oil family, River Oaks, Houston, Texas. And so I lived in a nice neighborhood. Everything was rather safe. And went to school there. I had no idea I'd become famous or anything like that as a kid. I'm just growing up. And I'd say that I had a very loving mother. I had a very loving father who was traveling quite a bit. And I was kind of left with four older brothers who, from some strange reason, were highly jealous of me and mischievous. So I wouldn't say I had a perfect childhood, but I had a mother who was always there for me, and I'm very grateful for that. And a dad who was very proud of me.
Were you picked on by them?
Yeah, see what happened is there were four brothers before me, and then two children after me. So 7 kids, a big family. Imagine 9 people at the dinner table every night. It was quite a scene. And I was teaching, I didn't know this as a kid, right? But I'm going to tell you what I learned later about my childhood, which was I was teaching a class. One of my books is Children Are From Heaven. It's a parenting guide. And it teaches parents how to manage your children to cooperate and do what you say without having to punish them. So it's a different theme. But my father was, traditional Texas guy, and he boys would misbehave. My mother would say, "I'll tell your father," and we'd go up to his room, and he'd pull out his belt, and we'd bend over, and he'd whip us. Okay, you get spanked with a belt, and that was how you did it. We all just we'll listen to mom, whatever she says, and
Right.
But by the time I came along, number 5, I was teaching this class, and my mother said, I introduced my mother at the end of the class. I said, "This is my mother," and everybody said, "Oh, Mrs. Gray, are these the ideas that you raised John with?" Because he turned out so good, So then my mother said, "Oh no, I would have been such a better mother if I had taken this class." That's my mother, very, very humble. And then they said, "Well, what did you do?" And she said, "Oh, when John came along, we just put him in the hands of God." And what that meant is no more punishment, or never. I never experienced punishment as a kid, nor were my
Wow.
parents ever afraid that, we often punish our children, worry about them, try to control them. So we don't want them to turn out well. So my mother was very spiritual. And I think it must have been a deal between, she didn't want to be punishing the kids, but, dad was the guy. So my brothers picked up on this. That my mother would say, "Okay, go see your father if you don't listen." And I'd go up there and he'd say, "Now make noises as I whip the chair." And but my brothers figured that out. They really got back at me. And so there were times when I was
Wow.
buried underground, screaming. I was thrown into. We used to break up the leaves in the fall and burn them in the front yard. And they shake. I'm a little kid. I'm like a toy for them. And they throw me into the water, into the fire. They did the same thing with the pool. I used to have all these concussions on my head.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
I went through it. So so that was a stage.
Wow.
And it wasn't all the time. You have to realize, people go, "Oh my God, what a terrible childhood." I didn't think it was a terrible childhood, but I was very shy, I think, as a result of that. I mean, very shy. And then I was
Wow.
also an adventurous kid. In second grade, I was climbing a big, tall tree, and I don't know how I got up there, but I made a mistake and ended up flying down upside down, hit my head straight on, broke both arms, bones sticking out. Uh,
Um,
Out, of course. And the doctor said there's no way I would have lived. He said you can't land straight down, because I was swinging on a rope upside down and I just dropped. That rope came
oh
undone,
my.
dropped down. And there's a series of events like that. And I remember my trauma. People say, "Oh, that must have been so painful." Actually, when you have a big trauma, your body doesn't feel pain at all. My mother said, "Oh, you're in shock," and bones sticking out of my arms. And all I remember when I woke up, I said, "Mom, we should go to the hospital." And she says, "Yes, yes, I'm trying." I had a friend over, and
Oh
she
my.
can't just leave the friend at the house, so she's got to drop the kid off on the way to the hospital. And I'm
Oh
thinking
my.
there should be an ambulance, flashing lights and whatever. But it wasn't a big deal, and I got there, and I still remember.
Bones are sticking out of your arms. That's a
Yeah,
big deal. Like,
it hadn't pierced the skin, so it wasn't a lot of
oh,
blood. It was just sticking out, pushing the skin up. So I had
that's
my moments.
awful.
So then around 12 years old, my mother said, I have something special to show you. And I said, "What is it?" And we got in the car, we drove, we ended up in this big lot. Uh, and there's all these men rolling newspapers. And she says, you're going to have a paper route. And so we went to the man. He said, "No, he's too young to have a paper route. This is too big of a paper route. It's one of the biggest paper routes in Houston at that time, at 350 houses."
Wow.
And it was our neighborhood where I lived. And uh, he said, "No, he's too young." So my mother said, "Then I want the paper route." So she got a paper route.
Oh my gosh.
We were upper middle class family, and what's she doing doing her own paper route? But then I tried doing it myself on a bicycle, and the papers just didn't fit on in one or two trips. So she ended up driving me on my paper route every day for 3 or 4 years, and for about 2 years. And then I earned enough money till I was 15, I think it was. I bought my own car and drove my paper route. And then I expanded. I was very entrepreneurial. Then I had two paper routes, and I had all these kids. I'd pay them Coca-Cola and peanuts, and they would roll the papers for me. And then my brother would drive, and we had two huge paper routes, and it was all a big entrepreneurial thing. And even before that, I think when I was 8 years old or 9 years old, I had a little printing press at printing cards. It was half card will travel. I would print
Oh,
cards for people, and then I took karate
wow.
classes, and in the karate classes, I decided I could make money. It's not like I needed money. I just wanted to make money.
Yeah.
It was fun and be entrepreneur. And I actually learned how to sew. My mother had a sewing machine, and I would sew those little white outfits that you see karate people wearing. And so I was selling those at the gym, a place where we would
Oh,
go. So I was very
Wow.
entrepreneurial. That was my childhood.
Did the brothers, the older brothers, did the resentment ever wear off? Did they ever like stop resenting you for not getting the beatings or
Well,
the
again,
spankings or
I don't know how much it preoccupied their mind. Okay, I just know that they sent
yeah,
things out on me. I mean, I remember when being on the roof and throwing me off the roof, and I think there wasn't a lot of I didn't even know the word resentment as a kid, so I don't relate to that at all. But I know there was
yeah,
a jealousy because later in life, I was unfortunately kind of showing off to my family. Remy was my business partner back in the '90s, and
yeah,
we had a jet together. This big, huge, and you've seen the jet, I think, holds
yeah.
30 people, bedrooms, and everything. Because I was traveling around the world when Men Are from Mars was really
Wow.
big, all over just nonstop. And I wanted to have my own jet so I could fly to New York, come back, and go again, come back, take my kids to school. So I was really committed to taking the kids to school and all that. And
Wow.
so we were on it was my birthday. So I flew to Texas in my big jet from California and took the family and all the children, about 34, 36 people on the jet. It has a living room and all that stuff. And I
Wow.
gave all the kids $1,000. And I said, we're going to New Orleans, and we spent the day there and we'd fly home. And so that was me showing off. I would never do that again. Okay. I just learned you
Yeah.
should, uh, particularly to your brothers. And they were all at that time. We had a beach house, and so they're all around, and we're talking about my success and how much money I was making and all that, and the influence my book was having. And my brother said, "Well, you succeeded because mother loved you more." And I was like, that was like some kind of cliche, you see
Oh my
therapy
God.
session or something. I goes, what? What are you talking about? They all went, yes, mother loved you more. And I said, she didn't. You see, as a kid, you don't have any awareness of these things. So my mother was still alive. And so we
Oh my
all,
God.
let's go ask her. That's not true. And we went and asked her, and she said, oh, this is the way my mother talks. Oh, I've done everything I can to show each of my children. I love each of you equally. I love you so much.
Yeah.
It's just Johnny, he makes you love him more.
Oh, that's so awesome.
That's what I woke up with. My whole childhood made sense at that point. I had no idea. And I didn't think about my childhood much at that point. I just sort of
Johnny wasn't a bully.
no, he wasn't. He was bullied, but not so much, not all the
Jeez.
time. I
Oh
kind
my
of was a recluse. And later on after you've asked me to talk about my life, I don't normally.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
love it.
uh and as a teenager, I was, at 14, I remember a girl blowing in my ear, and I became sexually awakened at that moment. I still remember, it was amazing. I said, what is this? And then, I just thought it was heaven. And in eighth grade, we would make out, and I didn't know what sex was. I just knew we'd make out and touch each other's bodies, and it was the greatest thing in the world. I mean, it, I think, it was like polyamorous. I think the polyamorous movement is a bunch of adults playing like children. Adulthood is commitment. You create a
Yeah,
family, you're loyal to your wife, you adore her, and you commit to her. All these polyamorous people, they're just dissatisfied in their sex life, and they justify it by universal love. But that's just to me, just central eating a lot of ice cream, basically. But eighth grade, it was appropriate. We weren't making babies, so it was heaven. I thought I found the secret and everything, and it was wonderful. And then came LSD and peyote and those things, and mushrooms. That was fantastic for a short, brief period of time. Right. For the 3 or 4 days of Woodstock, I was totally high, and I was a teenager
wow.
doing that whole '60s thing. I was a hippie, and then when I came back, I was just so down. I crashed so much. I was up so much, crashed way down, and around that time, the Beatles were very popular and said that they just come back from India, and they said that they learned how to meditate with the Maharishi of the transcendental meditation movement. And my mother happened to say, "Oh, he's amazing. So kind of like my mother had a stamp of approval, and the Beatles said you could get high without drugs, with meditation, and you don't crash down. So I said, this is for me. And I was 18 at the time, and
Wow.
I immediately got on a plane and went to Maine, the East Coast, the state of Maine, where Maharishi had just come from India to America. And I flew to New York, and then I hitchhiked to Maine and took the course. It was already sold out with 2,000 people. And I said, I'm going
Wow.
anyway. And I got in, and I was too young, they said. And then the next course was on the West Coast, and they said, no, it's sold out. You can't go. And I got on a plane and flew into San Francisco, hitchhiked up the coast to join the course. And because I didn't have a ticket to get in, I was not that tall, right? So the Maharishi would come in the back door, and he had a big entourage of his people. These are rich people who could support themselves and travel with him, and they were his people. And, they're like royalty, I'm the nobody. But what I did was I'd slip in behind him like I was his assistant every day to get in. And because I didn't have a ticket, I just went in with the boss. And
Wow.
It's a fun story. I think about, I'll say that. And
Wow.
people would sometimes say, well, who are you? I say, I'm the assistant.
That's a page out of Ramey's playbook, I think.
Yeah. He's, we're kin a certain way. So that went on for 9 years. I just, he sent me back to school, and I went back to the University of Texas. I got credit for going back to be with him, doing Eastern studies, Eastern philosophy, and did some of the basics, learned distance learning. And finally, after a couple of years, I went to every course he ever taught in the West, and nobody had done that. And I was just stuck on this guy. I just wanted to be like him. I think that we all learn a lot from mentors. So that was the stage of my life where I found somebody who I was drawn to. And, part of the whole thing for me was that, because I stayed with him for 9 years until I could master everything he said or did. I taught his teacher training program to teach teachers. I was his best meditator. They took pictures of me on my brain scans and everything. I was really a good student, really dedicated. And even to become his assistant was a big deal, because I wasn't rich like all the other people around him. And I wanted to be his assistant and just be right next to him, learn how to be him. And this is after about 2.5, 3 years of taking his classes. And he had these 2 assistants, and one of them got fired. I don't know why. The other one's parent was sick, so he didn't have an assistant. And the way he operated, he'd rent out these big hotels. There'd be these thousands of people taking these meditation courses, and he had a hallway and a bunch of chairs outside a suite in different hotels where he would stay. And he had a buzzer. So the assistant would come into the room, and when he would call, assistant would say, who's out there? He would give him duties to do and organize everything around him. He's just sort of sitting on a couch all day, interviewing people, planning things, doing his deal. So I said, oh, maybe I can give you the assistant and fill in. Well, there were 9 other guys who were called the 108. They were the fancy people, and they were much older than me. They had money, we'll put it that way. And they're all lined up, and they're taking turns. There's like 9 of them going in. When he pushes the buzzer, one of them would go in and waiting to see who he would pick. And I'm sitting there. I decided I'd sit there, and they said, well, who are you? And I said, I'm John Gray. And they said, well, you can't be here. You should go. And so, I'm a young guy at that time, and they're much older, and they're all the in club sort of a thing. So I went off, and I was so depressed. I just thought, oh, it was awful. I'd been kicked out. I wasn't going to be the assistant. I so much wanted to do it. I felt it was my journey. I had to do it. And really a lot of emotional turmoil, but I couldn't sleep. But I woke up the next morning really early. So I just, without thinking, I said, well, I'll just go up there. Maybe they won't be there. And so I was up there sitting outside Maharishi's door. And, when you're the Maharishi and all these people want to meet you and everything, you're in his room. He sits on a couch and talks to people, and then he wants to be alone. He'll say, go and rest. That was his phrase, go and rest. And so the first one of these 108s came over and came in to see me sitting there. And he says, well, who are you? And I said, I'm the new assistant. And I said, I'm the new assistant. And Maharishi says, go and rest. And I wasn't really lying, because I was just saying Maharishi says, go and rest, because he always says it. So then that guy goes, oh, bummer, I don't get the job. Another guy came up. He said, who are you? So this went on 9 times. And
Oh my
I just kept
God.
kicking him off the floor until Maharishi had kept asking me to do stuff. And everybody now thought I was the assistant. And then we went on right around that time, he decided he was going to go on they had planned in America a world tour. We were in Europe, and I only had $125 to my name at that time. And things were cheaper then, right? But I was just going a little tiny budget. And he said, we're going on this tour, and all the famous people and everybody around him said, oh, we'd like to go too. And he'd say, best to stay, best to stay, best to stay. But I'm his assistant, so I bought his airplane ticket. I listened to him saying that to everybody. And I know if I had said, can I come with you on this trip, he'd say best to stay. He just didn't want to have everybody traveling with him. It's a hassle. So I didn't ask him. I just bought a ticket. I bought his ticket and I bought my ticket. And he's sitting in his chair, and I'm sitting right next to him. He was like completely, he was, he knew what I was doing. I think he admired my chutzpah. He figured it out. And
that's
just didn't
awesome.
say anything. And then we got to Chicago, and I remember being in the hotel, having his suite. I had no money for a hotel. That ticket, I spent all my money on that ticket, thinking, okay, we'll see what's going to happen. And it was maybe $100 ticket called Travel America for Europeans who could then fly. As long as you went in a loop. And so the loop was his complete tour. It was New York, and then went to Chicago, on around to LA, and coming back to other cities. So I had the ticket. So that was all, and no money for food. But his organizer in America would pay for his suite. So I just didn't tell anybody. And Marcy had his suite, and the bathroom to the suite, I just put my luggage in there, and I slept in the other room. And I was traveling with protein powder, these protein powder pet containers. And it had bursted on the plane all over my suitcase. So I was cleaning it out, and Marcy came into the waiting room and saw that. He didn't say anything. He just smiled and walked back into his bedroom. So he figured it out. And he just said, this kid is like amazing. So what willpower, So by the time the next city came along, or after a couple of cities, it was Chicago at this point. And the other assistant came back, and he was like, turned out he was a little bit on the spectrum. So he was a little offish to everybody. I thought I took it personally as a kid, but he took over. I went the keys to the room, and I'm the assistant, not you. And I kind of said, okay, here's the keys. And then the Maharishis told him to go find me. And then the Maharishi met with both of us and said, I want you to have, he said to me, you're the new assistant. And I remember that moment. It was like, rabbit. I'm real. I'm real.
You're like Steve Martin in The Jerk. I'm somebody.
I'm somebody. It's me. I mean, the way I looked at it is a wonderful book called The Velveteen Rabbit, and the little boy has a rabbit, and they want to throw it away, and he says, "No, he's real." The little rabbit lights up, goes, "I'm real." That's how I felt. I am real, and it was so sweet. God. And I was so dedicated, I was like, put him first, put the job first, put God first, just know me. And I'm sitting there, and I can still remember this moment where he's talking to us. He says, okay, so you're now the new assistant, he said to me. And I want you both to have shifts. One of you will have the morning shift, and one will have the evening shift, because he worked a lot out. He worked all the time. He's constantly being there for everybody. He had no personal life, except this was his personal life. Hundreds of people seeing him all the time. And so I remember in that moment, I thought, oh, I could have a luxurious life and sleep late and meditate and go on the second shift. But no, I want to be strong. So the other guy paused and didn't say anything. And I said, well, I'll take the morning shift. And the other guys kind of smiled like he's going to have his morning meditations, because we like that, that was
Yeah.
luxurious to
Yeah.
be able to meditate in the morning. And so I took that job, and he had the afternoon job. So his duty started at 5 o'clock. I started early in the morning with the Maharishi. And what I didn't know at the moment, that's probably the best decision I ever made at that time in my life, because the morning is when Maharishi would sit there with me and we'd plan out the day. And so I would be in charge of everything around this guy, and this young 18-year-old guy, and maybe no, I'm 21 around that time, and plan out the day with him. And so when 5 o'clock came along, I gave the instructions to the other guy. So I was now his boss in a sense. It was amazing. I'm this 21-year-old. All these people are older than me. And I'm running the whole show around Maharishi, and famous people were coming to see him, and famous scientists and all these people. And they had to talk to me to get in to see him. So it was really,
And they were all like, "Who are you?"
well, finally, now I was the assistant. The way everybody knew I was the assistant is when he would, it was sort of an Indian tradition. He was an Indian guru, and he sat on a deer skin wherever he would go. He wore silk robes, and he had a deer skin. And you go to these big halls where there'd be 1,000 people, and he's coming in. I go ahead of him to put the deer skin down. So as soon as I come into the room, 1,000 people will stand up, put their hands like this. I'm putting the deer skin down. It was
Wow.
I'm just a kid, but it was like he's so lucky. Who is he? He's amazing.
Right.
He must be special. And so again,
That is incredible, John.
that was a fun journey for me. But there were moments that wasn't so fun. I remember before I got to that point, I was trying to get in there, and he said, "No, you should go back to school." And I just felt like, no, this was my destiny. See, it was my destiny. And I just crashed. I remember that day so clearly. I cried and cried and cried and felt hopeless. And so I went back to school. He wanted me to go back to UT, and I figured out how to get credit for being with him.
Wow.
And they wouldn't give me credit unless I had already done the first 2 years. But I'd been to St. Thomas, another university, for a little while. And so I said, "Oh, my records are coming from St. Thomas here. They're just not here yet." And I was a junior. So
Oh my God.
anyway, so
Wow.
I did that, and life went on. So I went back to him because that's how then I got to be his assistant, and spent years with him. Helped develop his teacher training program with a couple other people. I didn't do it all by myself, but 2 other people. And then taught his teacher training programs sometimes just to test it out. Traveled with him. It was an amazing life. What I have to say, I can't talk about myself without a lesson teaching.
I was going to say there's a huge lesson in here somewhere.
Well,
I think I know what it is.
Break through walls. Okay, you have to you get hopeless, you get despair. If I'm going to get through that, you dedicate yourself. But
hey, Ramey's watching with us, by the way.
Oh, Ramey's there. Ramy Abatori has a new book, and it's "You Can Grow and Grow Rich."
There it is.
You really grow and think and grow rich. He always he corrects me. I think it's "You Can," but can you really think and grow rich? Think and Grow Rich is one of the early books that I read. To think big. I remember when I first was in college, it was like, think big. I just remember myself saying that. I came from that book, and often people say, "What are your first books you read?" And first book I read was George Washington Carver, a black man who creatively figured out how to use peanuts. It was an amazing story. And then I read Yogananda, and I read Think and Grow Rich. Those are my, so I have this entrepreneurial side, this black person. I was part of my spiritual journey is having, at some point, I had a whole series of past lives I remembered. And one of them was a black person during the Civil War. I was a black person there. Again, so I guess I'm drawn to those people as well. I know in my own career, becoming Oprah's personal coach was a big help to me. I was on 18 shows with Oprah, and that little book over my right shoulder I see there is "Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus." I remember the day where she held that book up after she read it, and I'd been on her show when the first book came out, and I was on the last 2 minutes of the show. So it did nothing for sales, and my publishers canceled me. They said, "It's it. You got an Oprah show." The book sales didn't increase at all. So
they canceled you?
They canceled the publicist. So I
Oh
had no,
my God.
but anyway, I eventually
Wow.
got back on that show, and uh, she was very, very helpful. So anyway, I was kind of like talking about my Maharishi times, and sort of a lineage of my life is. I was going to say the lesson I learned, but I forgot it now. We got off the track, but I
Sorry.
feel like I waste time talking about me unless I have a lesson there. But it was persistence and
Well, you inserted
here's the big one.
yourself.
Let me try to remember it because I don't normally
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
And that is everybody projects onto a guru. Okay, the idea and the guru concept, the whole concept of a Freudian therapist is like Indian guru, where the therapist sits there and they don't tell you anything about themselves. They have a You're not allowed to know anything about them. That way you project on them whatever you want to project on them. And if you that you know, Freud would say, be analyzing somebody, and the person would say, well, what do you think? And Freud would say, well, what do you think I think? Okay, so it was never revealing anything about himself. That that allows the client to project onto the therapist, and then you kind of feel what they're projecting onto you. You kind of know what their childhood issues are. So there's a dynamic there. It has some intelligence to it, and that's the idea of the guru. The guru doesn't ever tell you anything about their life. So everybody imagines, and they teach ideas like you're always happy and you're enlightened and you're all this. So everybody thinks the guy they see on stage who's got a great sense of humor, a lot of wisdom from another culture. So you never heard these things. So it's also very interesting and very inspiring. This guy must be this way all the time. Well, when you're his personal assistant, you see that he's not. You know, he had his own troubles. He had his own issues. He'd get mad at people. He imagined people were spying on him and whatever. And I remember one time it was like one of my childhood friends. He said, "This is a CIA spy." No, he's not. He's my childhood friend. You know. So,
Right.
and then Marcia said, "Well, follow him. You'll see." You know, and so what I saw is that the more conscious people are, actually, the more attention they get from the world. It makes you more aware of yourself. You know, if you were just standing in a room, you think normal, but if suddenly you're in front of 1,000 people and you happen to undress, you'll be very embarrassed, right? You'll have a lot of energy coming at you. You have a greater
Right.
sense of self-awareness. So, and he did a lot of good practice. He was a great person, in my opinion. But what I see happens is when you have a lot of attention on you, it's like a magnifying glass, and all your good qualities become better, and all of your not good qualities become bigger. And so he had his own challenges, and I got to see them and still see him as a great man. So I got this really wonderful message from that, which other people don't get because he didn't reveal his personal life. You just see this person on stage, and so many people see these famous people on stage. Then you meet them and you stop projecting them. You stop putting them so far up. And so a lot of people, they just need to meet the people they admire so they can realize that why I see the good in them, that's also inside of me. And that's the gift I got, which is I got to be close to him for years to see that he was a wonderful person, but also had many problems. And so my vision of enlightenment, the place I wanted to be was that you're happy, you're fulfilled a bit more than most people. You're a bit more detached from everything. Things don't affect you as much, but you're able to quickly let it go instead of get stuck in it. And that to me is a real blessing. As things bother me, quickly I can let it go and move on. Quickly I can let it go on. But what he really had, which is an endless source of creativity and joyfulness and so forth, which I got through meditation as well. Yeah. So that's a stage, kind of a stage of enlightenment. But I didn't hold the guru as higher than me at that point. It was about 9 years, and I really got to the place where what was inside of him that I was drawn to find was inside of me. And I think this is an important lesson for everybody, if, you know, particularly in people in their 20s or any time in life, but particularly in the 20s, is you're trying to find your greatness inside. So be drawn to books, teachers, people, and try to get as close to them as you can, even if it's just reading their books and whatever. So you're inspired by that because a part of you says, I can be that, I can do that, I can learn from that. And in a sense, you might say that in education, you have this bachelor's degree, which kind of get the basic ideas. And then the master's degree is where you can master what somebody has done out there. See, there's experts in all these fields, and you pick one particular field that you're drawn to, and you master what other people have done. So you become an expert on what other people have learned. At that point, you have your PhD program, and that's where you, from the place of having mastered somebody else, you're in touch with your own inner true self, the master within you. Now you can create something new. And that's a PhD program, is some sort of independent study. And that was when I felt it was suddenly all my attraction to him was gone. It was like I'd fulfilled my purpose. I got to know this guy, hung out with this guy, journeyed with this guy. And, you know, we talk about Ramey being a billionaire. Well, when he was a young man, he did anything. I mean, he has this whole story too of doing anything to get to. It's in his book. It's an amazing story.
It's incredible.
To be close with and work side by side with Khashoggi, who was at that time the richest man in the world, which he was multi-billionaire. And so then Ramey has done this. And when I talk about Ramey, I just say it, you know, back in the 90s, I was already been #1 bestseller in the country. I was #1 bestseller on New York Times list for 4.5 years, maybe 5.5 years. Can't remember the details on it.
Wow.
Because Wikipedia has it wrong, but I used to have a chart showing it, the last one. But at #1 or #2 all the time. And #2 would be Mars, Venus in the Bedroom, or would be How to Get What You Want. You know, all my other books were sort of a few weeks up there, but it just stayed there. It just stayed there consistently, which was amazing experience. And people say, it must have been so amazing. I'll tell you what was amazing was when I first got on the list. That was the moment. It was that I'm real. Okay. I knew I was going to be a selling author. I knew it. And it took a year before I went on that list. It was a year. And the whole journey of that year was the excitement of getting on the Oprah show and my first tour with the company, and only having the last couple of minutes and nothing happening to book sales. But she kind of remembered me. And I kept writing to her after that to get on the show. And they kept saying, you're not ready. And they were right. I wasn't ready. It was about 3 years before I got on that show again. And my book had already been a #1 bestseller for 2 years, or maybe 1 year. I forget it. #1 for a whole year. And I wrote to her and I said, look, you got to have me on your show. I'm the biggest selling author in the country, and you're not letting me on your book show. You know, she was all about promoting books. So I went on and she looked at the book, and then 18 shows later. And I think it was about 3 shows with her. She finally read the book. And then she held that book up and she said, look, I promote all these books, you know that, but if you get one book, this is the book you should get. It was like such an amazing commercial. And her producers, the management there, basically said, you can't air that one because it's too much endorsement. It did air in Seattle for some reason, but it didn't air anywhere else because I was waiting for it.
Really?
Didn't happen. They said it was just a conflict of interest to be that much owning. They were jealous of me. Okay, wow. I've had jealousy my whole life, and never ever during that whole time when I was a #1 bestseller did I have what's called a love letter interview and print interview. Most of them were hit pieces.
Yeah,
hit pieces where they just say bad things about you. Then there's a pissing match, and there were a couple of pissing matches where they'll say what I say, and then they'll find some expert. Doesn't even matter who he is. Find some expert to give their point of view how I'm not good. That's called a pissing match. But there's a hit piece. Hit piece is almost every print interview I ever received during that time and since. Okay, it has been a hit piece on John Gray. Because it was not about me, so to speak. Even the New York Times, when they finally, after 5 years being on the list, they did an article on me. Another pissing match, that one. And it didn't even show my whole face. It just says, who is John Gray? And only showed half my face.
Oh my God.
This was in reaction to, they finally did it because I was, I don't know, I did Carnegie Hall, and it was either that tour or I did, which is a big deal in New York, or I did the Gershwin Theater a whole week in Broadway. I had a Broadway show for a week. Jeez. And I just got it on the off time. It happens to be the biggest theater in Broadway, and I sold it out every night with standing ovations and everything. And again, it was at that point. And so they did one sort of weird interview, and then they did another one the same week and did a hit piece on my show because they're really unhappy about my show because I had no props. It was just me. Nobody's ever done a Broadway show that I know of. And it was sold out, the best grossing show of all time.
Wow.
Was,
I happened to take a peek yesterday. I looked at your the TED Talk. I found your TED Talk on YouTube, and unbelievable TED Talk, by the way. It was so fantastic. And everybody watching after this show, you should go look it up and watch it. It's amazing. But there was one, I looked at the comments down below, and I thought it was appropriate too, because somebody said, I can't tell if this guy is a professional comedian or a real relationship expert, but either way, he's brilliant. And I said, because you're funnier than hell. And you know all this stuff about relationships. And I want to ask you, if I may, gosh, I could talk to you literally all day. But like, in your opinion and all of your experiences, and you've had some amazing experiences, what is the most common thing that causes relationship issues between a husband and wife?
Oh, good. I get to teach a little bit. I like that. Okay. So what's interesting, that is the number one question I answered for years. And that became the foundation of Men Are From Mars. It's just simply, what are the biggest complaints people have about each other? And that's how I developed these ideas. People say, well, how do you come up with all this stuff? Because I sat there for 8 years before I wrote that book, 8 or 9, and listened to women complain about the same guy. It was like they were all married to the same man. And it could have been my wife talking about me. And I'm like, they're misunderstanding us completely. And we men, by listening to these women for 8 years who had complaints about men that men did not have about women. See, that's why we were so different. Men don't understand. Women don't understand each other. If you had a woman who was wanting to divorce her husband, she'd say almost the same thing, and maybe a few different words, but she'd say, I give and I give and I give and I don't get back. I have nothing left to give. She'd burn out giving and not getting back. Well, if you look at what men will say, is they don't say that. They say, no matter what I do, it's never enough for her to be happy. Men just want women to be happy. Women didn't say anything about he's not happy. She said she's not happy. You know, we're so different. She said, I give and I give and I give. I don't get anything back. And I understand. I'm not judging her in any way. I get it. Men don't know how to give women what they need. And because they're thinking men, a woman's talking about her feelings. This is a woman's biggest complaint. He doesn't listen. And a man will say, what do you mean I don't listen? I just heard what you said. But he doesn't listen in the way she needs to be heard.
Right.
Tip. Here's a little tip, men. One tip to walk away. When a woman's talking, don't talk. Stop talking. Otherwise, you'll have arguments and fights. And she'll ask you questions. And what you do is you ask a question back. You're Freud. She says, what do you think? You say, what are you thinking? So you do it a little more gracefully. You say, help me understand. Well, I'm still thinking about what you said, but help me understand your point of view better. And then talks a little bit more, and you say, well, tell me more. And you say, tell me what else. Now that's a basic Mars-Venus concept, is stop interrupting her with solutions. If she's upset, don't interrupt with solutions. My wife would come home from her job and she'd start complaining about something happened there. And I said, oh, honey, if you don't like that job, just quit it. Do something else. She said, John, I just need to talk about it. I love my job. And for me as a man, well, if you love your job, why are you complaining about it? See, for women, they have a need to talk about things. And when I say that, a lot of women read Men Are From Mars, and they say, well, she feels like she is from Mars. She doesn't have a need to talk. And I say, well, she's disconnected from herself. I know it's a harsh statement. These women didn't like to hear that. Feminists don't like to hear that. But why are you unhappy? These are unhappy women, and they always just blame men for their unhappiness when they have to find their happiness, and a man will automatically give more to her. But it's like going to a job and you don't get paid. You'll just get lazy and not want to go. Men need to feel I have a mission, I'm fulfilling it, and I'm providing for her. I need to feel that love. I need to feel that appreciation. I need to feel acceptance. We hunger for that. And women today, not all women, but the women who are way on their male side, they're working all the time to make money. it's a joke. They want respect, and the way they get respect is by being like men. Wait, no, be a woman and get respect. How do you do that? I teach you how to do that. But
Wow.
from an empathetic point of view, many women who are sold the Bill of Rights to become like a man to be lovable. I have to be like a man to be lovable instead of learning how to be a woman and be lovable. So to be a man and be lovable, I don't know how much time I have to go. I realized I just opened up a hornet's nest there because we're today buying a woman. And see, the point of view is it used to be that a man can make a living and support his family, and she didn't have to work. See, the difference between I have to work to make money and I have a part-time job and my work is I love what I do. And now I wrote a book, Beyond Mars and Venus. I'll show that one here for people.
Here, let me give you full screen.
Yeah, Beyond Mars and Venus, relationship skills for today's complex world. How to bring women a relationship where a woman's busy working. See, when she's busy working outside the home, making money, she's making male hormones. And many of these women, back in the time when I wrote Men Are From Mars, said, I feel like I'm from Mars and my husband's from Venus. So they didn't relate to my book. And then they felt like my book was telling them they were wrong. I'm not saying they're wrong. And even in the beginning of the book, I said, look, this is not everybody. But the world wasn't ready to hear what are the challenges when a couple's in role reversal where she's more from Mars. At that point, there were so many people already in traditional relationships. I wrote that book primarily for them, where the woman is just misunderstanding the man. You ask what are the biggest complaints. Men don't listen to women. They need that. But many women said, I'm too busy to want to talk. I don't want to talk. Why do I want to talk about my day? Who are these women that want to do that? I said, okay, this book's not for you. But actually, this new book is those women who don't feel I need to talk about what's going on are disconnected from their female hormones. And what I pointed out in my new book for everybody, it's amazing, is to understand that men have a dominance of male hormones, like 10 to 20 times more testosterone. Otherwise, they're depressed or they're angry. Women, on the other hand, are unhappy, unable to be satisfied. They're always finding problems if their estrogen levels and other female hormones are out of balance or too low. So I wrote a book to help women understand their hormone system. Nobody understands it. It's the first book ever, rather than women having to take hormones, which is so common today, and suffer all these hormonal problems. You have to learn what behaviors and attitudes and activities and challenges that you have to overcome as a human being will produce estrogen versus will produce Mars hormones. Okay, so I'm looking at the title of the show, Breakthrough Walls. We come into this world with challenges to learn who we are. The most spiritual message ever is know thyself. And if you're a man, you know thyself as a man. And women, you have to know yourself as a woman. This is your body. This is reality. You can't just decide I'm going to be a walrus. You are what you are. And so knowing yourself, but it's hard to know yourself. Okay. See, as a man, I remember a little boy watching my dad shave. I thought, how will I ever do that? I can't do that. Well, then he eventually taught me. And then as a teenager, I'm going to have to make money to support a family. Eeks, that's a lot of hard work. How can I do that? And then I had someone show me how to do that. And I could do that. So many boys today don't have fathers to show them their way. They don't have mentors to show them their way. So, because see, to produce testosterone, you have to experience overcoming challenges to succeed. You have to feel successful in making a difference, having a mission, sharing with other people. That's overcoming challenges, builds testosterone. You go to a gym, you don't pick up light weights, you pick up heavier weights, not too much, but enough to push your boundaries. That makes testosterone, and men need 10 to 20 times more testosterone than women. Otherwise, we have addictions as a result of that. We have depression, we have anxiety, we have violence, anger. All of that is when men's testosterone levels are low and their female hormones are high. What stimulates female hormones? One of the things is when you basically say, you wake up in the morning, you say, oh, I don't have anything I have to do. I'll just do what I like. Do what you like. That was sort of the whole hippie thing. Do what you like. Do what you love.
Right.
Fun. Free sex. You don't have to earn your sex. You don't have to do anything responsible. You have to commit yourself to a woman. Free sex. Do what you like. Oh, LSD and drugs. Do what you like. Do what you like. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, don't go to the war. We demonstrated for peace and whatever. And there's some good in all of that, but it was too much. You go too far to your female side, then you become weak as a man. So think about it as a man. What's easier for me to do what I have to do to make money and learn and all that stuff, or do what I like? It's easier to do what you like. Do what you like, and estrogen levels go up. Now, women have problems producing what they like. They feel like, I have to get out there and become men. I have to do this. Anytime you have to do something to make money, you're making testosterone. Anytime you have to overcome a challenge of what men have done for centuries. People talk about how men are not great. Look at the greatness of men. Men throughout time have done the dirty jobs, the difficult jobs, the dangerous jobs, and without complaint. You know, you got women today talking about how bad the patriarchy is and all that. We're the guys that changed the world. Now, granted, every form of government has been corrupt. That's the world we came from. And every generation, it gets better and better. But and then we got these guys that created the Constitution, the foundation of freedom, which is an experiment on this planet. See, people take for granted how free they are to just complain about this country. It's nonsense. And it's a bunch of people males on their female side whining about it, and women on their male side judging masculinity. Because if you're not on your female side, you can't love men. Women love men. That's the femininity. Men love women. That's who we are. We're biological complements. We grow by finding love together. So back to your question. What are the big things? Women, on the other hand, didn't understand that men are these testosterone guys. And when you work hard, you have to rebuild your testosterone before you enter into the palace and make love to your wife and take care of your family and all that. Your estrogen levels go at that point. But if you have high estrogen, it pushes your testosterone down. So one of the ideas of Men Are From Mars that women love back then, and they still do when they care about men, and that is men in the cave. Man cave. That all started with Men Are From Mars. Every man has a man cave. Stay out, women. This is what we do as guys to rebuild our testosterone. And it's activity that rebuild testosterone. I'm not saying all activities in the cave are good for the relationship or good for him, but he has this need to pull away from intimacy to rebuild his testosterone, and then he can join his family with intimacy. So that was a big complaint women had, which is, why is he ignoring me when he comes home from work? And I said, that's the cave. Men have the cave. On Mars, we all have caves. So he just needs to go there to forget the problems of the day. Now, ironically, that's the big mistake we men make with women, is women will be upset about something. We say to them, just forget it. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It's an overreaction. Oh, you can't say that. I can say, my friends, one day I was in my men's group and I was upset with one of the guys, and everybody looked at me and they started laughing at me and said, oh, John Gray, you're overreacting. And immediately I went, you're right, I'm overreacting. You see, everything, when we're really upset with somebody we love, we're overreacting. We don't see ourselves. And the more we're out of balance, we can't see ourselves. And that's the ultimate truth, which is know thyself, who you are. You're a loving person. You're a selfless person. You're a giving person. You're a forgiving person. And you're a man if you're a man, and you have a female side. See, as maturity goes, my estrogen levels are higher than most women. That's the loving part of us when you have estrogen. But my testosterone levels are 50% higher than when I was a young man. As you grow older, men are supposed to know thyself better, grow, break through the walls in your life, overcome the challenges. Your testosterone goes higher and higher and higher. Then your estrogen level can follow. And then you have something called wisdom, which is, as you get older, you're wiser. You have a male side and you have a female side. You have the enlightenment of knowing thyself. And we're wonderful human beings, but it's a gradual process. Boys should first know themselves as boys. And I just have to say this once again, since I'm talking about that. You can't even know your sexual identity. This is a big deal today, your identification, okay? You can't even know it as a male until your testosterone levels increase. That makes your masculine energy. Boys, when they're hit puberty, when that girl blew in my ear at 14 years old, that was, now I'm a man, okay? I'm a male, okay? And she's a girl. There was suddenly a difference. And you look biologically. See, I think it's so funny they talk about you can't understand men and women unless you have the biology, unless you have a biologist. Well, here's a book on biology of men and women, Beyond Mars and Venus. We're so strikingly different. It just breaks down all of the nonsense they're teaching in universities, that this is just some social engineering that made us males and females. Social engineering was the wisdom of thousands of years that got us to this amazing country of freedom. Social engineering that said men thrive when we're giving them challenges, when they have to actually break through walls. Okay.
Yeah.
We have to go out and do the dirty, dangerous stuff so women can learn how to love and create a family and then love those men because you depend on those men and you love those men. That's your female side, is whenever you're in touch with depending on and needing someone, that's feminine. And whenever you're selfless and you're willing to do whatever's required for the job, you do it. And that's your masculine side. Now we're at a place where we have easy access because there's so much freedom. America, the freedom to be whatever you want to be. So men can go over to do what you like, and women can do what do what they have to do to be free, to feel powerful. Male power is look what I can do. Female power is look where I can get other people to do for me. I don't have to do it all. Every unhappy woman says I have to do it all. No, if you have female power, you don't have to do it all. You get a man to do it for you. You got the power to do. You're just losing your power. It's outrageous, confused. The whole world is turned upside down now. But we'll get it back up, right? So anyway, back to let me just say one thing. Puberty. Yeah. Boy, at puberty, his testosterone levels increased 10 times. That's how you know you're a male. You can't know that as a child. You can't even get close to knowing that. This is all complete nonsense. People's fantasies. It's neurosis. And girls, when they start having their period, that's when they start to feel feminine. Oh, there's so much I can say about sexual confusion today, and it's not healthy. I'll just put it like that. And it's child abuse to even talk about sexual identity before a child. Actually, until you're 28 years old, you don't have the brain power to even know who you are. Just to know that. We have the science tells us the prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to self-reflect and know thyself, the potential to know yourself. You don't have the potential to fully know yourself. Not that not everybody gets there. Until the prefrontal cortex develops, it takes 28 years for it to develop. We know this scientifically. A teenager can't know that. They need guidance. They need role models. They just got hormones of attraction, whatever. And then you have to guide them. You know, if you do, what's happening today is boys are doing all this pornography. The outcome of that is lower and lower testosterone. It's 20% lower than it was 20 years ago. Everybody's testosterones are going down today. And there's other reasons that contribute to that. But the major one for boys is pornography and ADD that it stimulates. As long as all those computer games, overstimulation of the brain changes the brain. I wrote a whole book on that, which is funny. You know, that TED Talk I was planning to talk about the book on ADD. And I saw 1,000 couples in front of me. And so I said, I'm giving a minute from Mars. I don't care what.
It was awesome.
It was very funny. It was very funny. And you can see
I think you said, ironically, I was going to talk about ADD or something.
Everybody laughed because it's like ADD is not able to hold focus. So I couldn't even focus on that book. But it's because this is my audience. These are people who care about love and family and relationships. Yeah. They just eat up men from Mars, women from Venus. And then you got another TED Talk, which is not so popular. It's me wearing it's the other one where I'm not wearing a red shirt. And now you can see what a talk from me is like when I've got an audience of queer people. This was San Francisco, you know, a lot of people with all these alternative views, and I'm just trying to give the basics, and they're like not buying it at all. Because anything, not the narrative, which is family life and so forth, they're not interested in that at all. And this is the narrative today. People should know this is the universities denormalize heterosexual marriage and family. They want to break down the family. It's this family unit that has built the whole world, and at least in the free world. And they're trying to break it down, just like they're doing our economy and all those different things. It's the family unit. It's the most important thing. It's love on this planet. It's all you need is love. It's the whole key thing. But can people handle it? Because people can't handle freedom. Freedom is very tough to handle. Once you're free, if you're a male, it's free. You can just go over your female side. For a woman, if you're free, just go over and just lose your femininity, lose the joy in your life, lose the happiness by saying, I don't need a man. And I have to compassionately say, women are growing up in a society that promotes that. Therefore, they don't know what they need. You know, when we had the whole COVID thing, all you needed to know is that you need vitamin D. Nobody went to the hospital with healthy vitamin D levels. All you do is test your vitamin D to see if you're vulnerable to dying from COVID or getting sick from COVID. It's a terrible sickness, a horrible thing. But we know you're either obese or you have low vitamin D. And in most of the people, you're 80 years old and above. So there was no scare. It's just our society. We make a big deal out of nothing. We're fear mongering all the time. And there's people that promote that. These are people you don't understand. People can't believe that people have ill will towards you. This is one out of, say, 100 people are psychopaths. One out of 100, no, 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 100, they say are sociopaths. Now, some books say even 1 out of 10 people are sociopaths, and 1 out of 100 or 1,000 are psychopaths. Psychopaths are people that actually are happy hurting people. They want to be centralized. They want central authoritarian control. They want to hurt you. They want to control you, and you're ants to them. They have no heart. We have to counteract that. We have to wake up. And I understand it now. I thought everybody was like me, loving and nice. And that's what you are. Everybody thinks, how could anybody have negative intentions towards us? Well, that's real. And so what we do
is so real.
It's so real. It's going on in this world. And I have to say, your media, what I just found out the other day is even Fox News was paid hundreds of millions of dollars to never say anything bad about the vaccines, even though we now see they're killing people. And I probably can't say that.
I'm pretty sure we just crossed all the social lines.
Okay. But in the year 2000, I was canceled. I was on every show in the 90s. Everybody loved me. They loved me. They liked me and so forth. And then even Oprah canceled me at 2000. Every single major network on national TV. I've never been allowed on since then. And that's because I became too big. And
you've certainly reached.
Feminists cannot handle talking about men and women are different, talking about traditional values, talking about love. That's not their thing.
So to summarize, you're saying it's not okay really for me to identify as a cat.
That's right. And I'm a dog. Although I playfully sometimes tell women men are like dogs and women are like cats. You got to earn that cat's attention, and she's not always going to give it to you. And for men, we're just like, just feed us, be happy to see us, make love to us, ask for help, let us feel powerful and strong, and we will be powerful and strong. Say it like that. We just need love. And just like women, they just need love. But we have to understand how we come from different ways of needing love. And once we do that, we can be in harmony. Otherwise, there's so much conflict going on between men and women, and actually less conflict because they don't even get close together. Sex lives are dramatically dropping. And here I'm at 70 years old and testosterone levels as a young man having great sex. I mean, sex doesn't have to go away. You just have to understand the communication skills that will stimulate more estrogen in women, more testosterone in men. For men to have an iron penis, they need 50% more testosterone than a woman. And a young man has that. Women need to have 100%, double the estrogen they have normally in order to be orgasmic. Well, how do you create that estrogen for women? I know how to do it. I teach it in this book. Women can do it for themselves, learn how to raise their estrogen without masturbation. They're even teaching our children how to pleasure themselves through masturbation. Masturbation decreases testosterone in men, decreases estrogen in women. It makes you're having sex with a robot. What lack of less loving thing could there be than to waste your life force energy without love? So we have a lot of education to do. It's what keeps me going as a 70-year-old. I figure I need another 50 years to teach this stuff. We'll see what happens.
I could literally, I said it earlier, I could listen to you all day. I got to participate in what you were doing at Ramey's and the meditations and it was unbelievable. And you are amazing, John. You're absolutely amazing.
I'm not so great. My expertise, I'm amazing. A lot of things I don't know. I mean, there's so much to know in this world, but with my expertise, I'm the Men Are From Mars guy. There's nobody that knows men and women better than me. I've been teaching 50 years, learning about men and women and how to create love and how to have great sex and lasting passion. All those things I can teach people how to do.
I noticed on your website, first off, I got to say this real fast. Your daughter is on the website with you. She's just adorable. I love her happy energy in the pictures. And, but there's somewhere on there, I saw that you have like a free starter course or something on your website.
Right on the front page, but people can go there straight by just going to marsvenus.com/gift. And there's a starter course and it's free. And we have a few courses on there for people. We have a lot of free blogs and so forth, but One course by me on sex is another course by Lauren called How to Get Your Me Time. And that's for women only. It's an amazing 6-week class for women who learn how to be happy without depending on a man, so you can depend on a man to make you happier. Because see, women often feel like I don't need a man. Then when they have a man, then they get all needy and demanding and everything. You have to have a life. Men are just dessert. Think about men to dessert. And she teaches women how to do that. And that's the women only course. We got a new one coming out, which we wrote together, which is called Understanding Men. We think it's a bestseller. It's outrageously good. We have one called How to Bring Out the Best in a Man. So there's a lot of courses on there. And then at another website, I've got MarsVenusCoaching.com. If coaches would like to throw in the Mars Venus ideas into their program, or people want to become a Mars Venus coach, we have a 4-month course on that, and then a 1-year program to actually learn how to do it if you want to do it professionally. So that's something for people. A lot of people just do it. I want to master this material, and it is the course for mastering Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus. There it is.
That's it right there. MarsVenusCoaching.com.
Yeah, thanks for putting that up.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important. I thought for the longest time when my wife, gets, I won't say upset, but emotional, I thought that the appropriate response was just calm down. That doesn't work very well.
Well, actually, what works is you calm down, because usually men start getting upset. One of my chapters is called The Anatomy of an Argument. Women get upset about something and then wanted to calm her down. She becomes more upset about things, and he becomes upset that she's upset. And now you have an escalating argument. Right. Most men will come up to me and say, John, thanks so much. I just need to know. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to solve the problem. I can just ask questions. And she's happy. She's not asking me to fix it, and we're firemen in a certain sense. If there's a fire, the person we love most, just jump in there and put out the fire. And the strategies we use for ourselves quite often just don't work for them. One of our strategies is forget it. Don't worry about it. There's nothing I can do about it. Accept it. Let's go have fun. Yeah, this does not work for women. And a lot of what's happened to the young men, they're influenced by universities. Psychology is teaching all men to talk about your feelings, and telling women he should talk about his feelings. And when a man's upset, the worst thing he can do is talk about his feelings to the person he's upset with. If a man gets angry, his estrogen levels are going up, testosterone is going down. It's the worst condition. When you start feeling anger, if you talk about your emotions, they just get stronger and stronger. So don't talk at that time. Take time to go to your cave. And women have to understand this. He's loving you by taking time away from you so he doesn't get mad at you. And because they'll say, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? What's going on inside? He starts becoming irritated and annoyed. His estrogen levels start going as he's talking. Then she's going to argue with him. We have to stop escalating. And so we need to take time out. And some women say, oh, he's so mean to me, yells at me and whatever. I say, no, you should stop listening and walk out of the room. And just say, hey, you're being mean. I'm walking out of the room. Don't tell him what he should do. That's trying to control him with your unhappiness. That never works. Complaining doesn't work. There's another way to get what you want. Unfortunately, people don't know. I tell women, if you complain, it never works, does it? No. Well, what else am I supposed to do? They don't know what else you're supposed to do, how to ask for support in a non-demanding way, and how to train your man that doing little things for you gets big rewards. See, we live in a world where big things get big rewards. No, with women, it's lots of little things that keeps their estrogen levels up. I can bring her 50 roses. Her estrogen is going to go get a surge. I can give her 1 rose. Estrogen is going to surge. So men, when they hear this, it suddenly makes sense. They logically figure out this doesn't have to be so difficult, but we have to learn the software. It's like we have completely different software now, because the hardware is pretty much the same, but the software has changed. Once the environment has freedom, the software changes, because women can go to their male side and get stuck. They're addicted to be on their male side. All addictions are estrogen stimulating for men. They make men more estrogen oriented. And the average man today has half the testosterone he had when he was a young man. It's shocking. It's like we lose it. And now we have all these libido products, and they're not so bad, by the way. I don't take them, but it will give you a boost in your testosterone. I'm all for these natural supplements. The biggest one most powerful one that's in every one of libido pills is Tongkat Ali. Tongkat Ali is a Malaysian herb that kicks estrogen out of your body and prevents your testosterone turning to estrogen. So that's the key. You're not taking testosterone. You need to make testosterone. Just taking testosterone only raises estrogen. It raises testosterone up, and then it converts into estrogen. And what keeps you healthy as a man is making testosterone. One of the most important things. Heart attacks only occur in men who have low testosterone and high estrogen. That's it. That's the imbalance.
Wow.
They don't say that because they don't advertise that, because taking testosterone, injecting testosterone does not prevent you from having a heart attack. So they won't talk about that. It's learning how to make it, and how you make it is great sex and good relationship skills and working hard and having a good job. All these violent boys, they're all on psychotropic drugs, of course, you know that, but they're on these drugs because already they had no fathers. A wonderful book written by Warren Farrell and I is right over right there.
Let me give you full screen.
There it is. The boy crisis is how we can bring boys back to their power, because right now they're being indoctrinated in schools to go over their female side. They're not being challenged properly, not being treated properly. It's all everybody wins instead of like win-lose. You have to realize the world is full of loss. You have to deal with loss and get the encouragement you need to win, find the way you can win. Parenting skills, the women dominate the parenting and fathers feel left out of parenting. This all weakens masculinity in boys. So we're learning, it's a society, we've gone so far the wrong direction. That's usually when people suffer enough, they're willing to change what they think and come back to the correct thinking. Correct thinking is just what works. It's just, if your life's not working, you're not getting all the vitamins you need. As simple as that. If you have COVID, you didn't have enough vitamin D. And vitamins are basically love vitamins, meaning these are things that we need in terms of our lives. And we don't just need men and women don't just need men. They need a life separate from men. They need children, or if they don't have children, they have to have a garden or a pet, someplace where they feel unconditional love. Very, very important that you're not just giving love to get something. That's okay. And then there's work, where we all work hard. And that produces certain hormones. More for men, they need that more than women, but women also have a male side. And today what we have is the opportunity with freedom to be both on our male and female side. It's just tricky, because when you're a man, you get to your female side. It's so easy to just hang out on the couch and watch TV, or take your drugs, or drink too much, or whatever. And for women, it's so easy to not be on your female side, because your female side, for all of us, our female side is emotional, and emotion can sound a little non-logical, and everyone wants to be logical today. And so that's what I'm teaching men. Realize a woman's emotions don't have to be logical all the time. She's like the weather. You can't control it. And if you can't control something, you can accept it. Because see, that's how we do it all the time. It's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so accept it. Well, there's nothing I can do about it, accept it. So when women on their male side, on the workplace, they can't change things so much. So they just accept it. You don't try to change it. But then they come home and they try to change their husbands. That's called displacement. All the stress of the workplace, women manage it like a man by, well, there's nothing I can do about it. Well, that's the way it is. I'll just let it go. But that's for emotion. For a woman, she biologically, because she has estrogen, 8 times more blood flow goes to the emotional part of the brain. But when she's not in the workplace, she's suppressing it all the time suppressing. And when she comes home, all that compounded stress gets projected onto her husband. Because if she's having sex with him, that's called displacement. These basic Freud ideas were great. They just didn't understand that there's female side of this and male side to this. Men don't displace. Very rarely do we displace our emotions of what goes on during the day. We go to our cave to forget it. That's what Buddha taught. Meditation is you forget your problems. Don't think about it, and your testosterone will go back up. Go ahead.
But it's true. And you and I had a brief conversation about meditation. I've done it for every day of my life for 19 years. And it's one of, it's a non-negotiable for me. Like, even when we go on vacation, my wife, like, hey, I'm meditating, see you in about an hour. So, I think people really need to connect with that. And go ahead.
what's great in my marriage, okay, is my wife was also a meditator, TM teacher as well. And and she respected my need to meditate. She admired my need to meditate. And all meditation is, it's one form of the man's cave. And
Yeah.
it's like I learned this, I put it into words when I married Bonnie, and we were married for 34 years. She passed on now, but she when I moved into the house, we moved into the house together. I started ordering magazines. I didn't even know why I was ordering magazines. I'm reading. I don't waste my time looking at magazines. Okay, so it's not my thing. All right. So,
Yeah.
but I'm sitting there in the house and I'm reading a magazine. I ask myself, why is it that I do this now? So I put the magazine down, and within a minute, my wife was after me to do something. So
you're like,
she had little antennas. They go, uh-oh. And the antennas come up, and she says, inactive man can get help. And so she came down. So I realized, as long as I got a newspaper in front of me, she's not going to talk to me.
oh my God.
See, men knew that cultures knew this with men in their meditation, are sharpening their tools. You go to Africa, you go to indigenous tribes, men are in a different fire, two different fires, and men are sharpening their tools, and women are all gossiping and talking and with the kids and everything. This is biology. This is how we've evolved. This is our stress reduction. Imagine a woman, when I was down in the Amazon, living in a village with some people for a while, and the women would go to the river to get water. So imagine she goes late at night and she sees a tiger. What's she going to do? She's going to run back and tell somebody. She's got to tell somebody. Imagine she kept it a secret. She'd feel terrible. So women, biologically, they tell, and the men go out there quietly and scare that tiger away or shoot it or something or kill it, whatever.
Right.
Men get quiet. When you're a hunter, you have to be quiet. You find a perch to see things. Whereas women, they talk about stuff and they ask for help and they get help and they motivate people. They make noises. This is our biology. And you don't just decide not to be your biology and think you're going to be happy and fulfilled. You're going to be sick.
So don't identify as a walrus. And if you do, you need to go to marsvenus.com and get started to get introduced to who you really are. John, you are amazing. And I want to have you on more. I want to remember what I said to you at Ramey's. Do you remember the idea I gave you? That would be like the number one freaking podcast in the world. I guarantee it.
Right. You want me to have a podcast, right?
Oh my God. 8 minutes a day. People would, I'm telling you.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that, during the lockdown, I did 300 hours, but then nobody came to my website anymore. I just had too much material. I just sat down and gave my message. I got almost 30 books basically that I talked from. But maybe if I did 8 minutes, people would still go to my website.
Well, everybody watching right now, number one, I've got those two books, the Men Are From Mars book, and I have your newest book that you just held up. I have both of those in my Amazon store. For those of you that follow me on Amazon, both of those, they're right next to Ramey's. Ramey thinks I should put his book as number one in my store. I said, dude, my books are number 1 and 2. And then yours is, he's like, why? Mine needs to be number. I said, oh my God. I love Ramey though. But this has been absolutely incredible. Look, Nicole Young said it, or TikTok, the fastest growing social media platform in the world still. And geez, John, you're amazing. Like, I just want to blow you up even further. Not that you need it, but I want to help you. Like, everybody go buy these books. Go to marsvenus.com right now. Get signed up on his free course. It's free. marsvenus.com/gift. Is that correct? I think you said.
Yeah.
You can go to that and enroll in a free course. Like, this is amazing. Absolutely amazing. My wife is watching. This was an incredible interview. Had no idea how much I don't know. So awesome. Maybe she'll respect my cave now. I'm kidding. Oh, whoa, hold on. I got to give you full screen on that. What in the world is that?
That's another number one bestseller for a year. Nobody knows about it now because Men Are From Mars supplanted it. But it's Mars Venus in the bedroom. This is such a fun book for couples to read. So they help men understand women, women understand men. And it's not technical. It's like you can make a little, oh, that's a cute idea. Oh, I like that idea. See, it's hard to talk about sex. Say you've been married 10 years and a woman says, you know what I'd really like is this. And he says, why didn't you tell me 10 years ago? Yes, it is on Audible, but it's a fun book.
On Audible?
You kind of read, they're short chapters and you read it and it's kind of like, you can go, oh, I like that idea. That's kind of nice. We might explore that or something like that. It makes it real easy to communicate around sex. And then, of course, then I have my class on sex at marsvenus.com, which is funny. It's a very funny talk.
Wow.
And you know, we also have workshops. Just so people know, I do give workshops still in America around San Francisco area. So if you're on our mailing list, we send you that. I'll probably be one in another couple of months. I'll do a weekend workshop, Saturday and Sunday, sometimes Friday.
In person.
Yeah, in person. I work with people and they're small. They're like 40 people. That way everyone feels comfortable. They can talk and share. And not everybody has to. You can be invisible or you can be very visible. And I work with you. It's so much easier. You know, I still do counseling for some people and I can work with people. It takes a long time in counseling, at least shorter in a weekend, because I'll work with somebody in front of everybody. And it's amazing. Everybody sees themselves in that person. And I don't want to do that, but somebody else is willing to do that. And you,
yeah.
It's as if you got that counseling and it's very powerful. It's very powerful to see other people be revealing their challenges and having me help them. It helps everybody. So that's another option people have. And thanks for letting me talk about it.
Oh God. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'll be your new Oprah. And you can come on anytime. Call me, Ken. Let's go live. Ramey does. Ramey calls me. He's like, hey, let's go do a live stream. So, hey, I absolutely love what you're teaching. I love your message, and I think that the world needs to hear more of this, especially when you have people identifying as parakeets and crazy stuff.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I mean,
I'm blown away. So
I'm holding myself from talking because I know we need to end this interview.
I got all day. So I'm more concerned about your time than mine. It's my show and it's the internet. We can go as long as we want. So it's your time that I'm trying to be respectful.
But I want to say something then. All right. I want to explain what's going on today. There's a narrative which says that denormalize heterosexual marriage and family. And all that does is speaks to our most basic instincts to do what you like, do what you like. And do what you like, if maintained in boundaries, is good. That's a balance of your masculine that says, do what works. And our feminine says, do what you like. Now, this is biological. Now, that's just me talking about what I think in my theory. When you do what works to achieve a goal. As a matter of fact, for men, one of the things you can start now is every day write out your goals. More important than think about it, write it out, produces testosterone. A very basic thing that you're always on mission. You know, when you're driving, you're on mission. So you're making testosterone when you're driving. Okay. Whenever you're on mission, you have a goal and you're saying, I'm doing what it takes to get there. And so you're focused on what works. All right. Now, when you're doing instead of what you feel like, one of the biggest damages that culture has done is for this awakening of the male and female side that's happening here. Because of freedom, you can be both, but you have to still know thyself as a male if you're a man, and then find your female side, integrate it in. So this is do what works is your male side. Do what you like and enjoy and love. That's your female side, right? So we all human beings, we want to blend those two things together. We want to integrate the yin and the yang. We want to integrate the masculine and feminine. Most of therapy is integrating the light and the dark. You know, we all have this self-consciousness and we have this unconsciousness. Jung talked about this. Our whole focus here for personal growth is to bring the consciousness into the unconsciousness, and therefore it doesn't control us, and we're able to do what works. So what makes us human is the capacity to, or maybe human divine, is to self-reflect. See, humans have the ability to self-reflect on what I said, what I did, and did it work? And you can't, if you blame other people for how you feel, then you're giving up your power to reflect on what you said and what you did and how you reacted. And then that didn't work. Yeah. So yes, blame is appropriate. Somebody hits you. Yes, they hit you, but you have to figure out, now, how did I contribute to them wanting to hit me? Okay. So did I not protect myself? Did I aggravate them? Did I do the wrong thing? We have to self-reflect and understand how we create the mess of our lives. And then we can begin to see how we're creating the mess in the world. It's self-reflection is what makes us one step higher than animals, to self-reflect. So once I can self-reflect, then I can correct. Then I can find myself and how do I want to be and aspire towards that. Learn my lesson. You know, one of the wonderful things about Ramey's book. What's the title of Ramey's book?
Can you really think and grow rich?
I always think you can think and grow rich. So I say it wrong. But
poor Ramey. He can't even get John to remember the name of his book.
Can you really think and grow rich? Here's a guy who is billionaire, right? And so what he's done, he had his mentor, and then and the whole story is in the book, but it's a wonderful story. It's an inspiring story. And you see how he would rise and then he crashed down, and then he rises higher and he crashes down, and he rises higher and crashes down. Well, I look at that as, you know, this is every marriage, is you fall in love and then you crash back. And then you have to learn your lesson of how you contributed to that, to rise again, and then to crash down and rise again. And so much of the time, what couples do, because they don't understand how men and women are different. That's the premise. If I understood, we think we're the same. So it's so easy to blame our partner. So if we don't take the time to introspect and explore, what did I do wrong? Now that's very hard to do. So as a man, as enlightened as I am, if my wife was upsetting me, I then go to my cave to reflect on what happened. First, I do something to forget what happened, temporarily forget it, to feel good. For me, it was meditation, but it could also be going for a drive in my car. It could also be going to the gym. I did that a lot during the COVID thing. So anything that pumps up testosterone allows me to not have so much emotion. Now, and I haven't suppressed my emotion. You see, women think, oh, you're just suppressing emotion. Therapists think you're suppressing emotion. No, I'm balancing my hormones so I don't have these crazy negative emotions. Women have crazy negative emotions too, but they talk about it to sort it out, bring the light in it by talking about it. Men need to ignore it, bring their hormones up, then come back to your female side, and it's not as intense, and explore what you're bothered about. And then you blame your partner, but you don't tell them that. See, telling somebody just makes it more real. So what you do is you think, what did she do that I didn't like, that upset me, that bothered me? And you write out, you become objective. See, objectivity is testosterone. It's masculine. It doesn't get upset. You're objective. You stand back from it. So what did she say or do? Not who she was. Oh, she was horrible. No, that doesn't mean anything. That's just a judgment. But what was said, and then what did she say that was bothering me? You become objective. Then you say, and give details. Then basically, what did she do wrong? Then you go, what should she have done? And now you analyze, okay, what could she have, how could she have communicated that to me? How could she have done this? What should she have been? So you write it out. Once you've done that, you've now reflected on what she did wrong. That frees you to say, now, what did I do wrong? So what did I say? What did I do? And what could I have done? And now you're solving the problem. You analyze the problem, you solve the problem. Those are big testosterone producers. And then the biggest one is you commit to not doing the wrong thing in the future. And you're done. That's your job. That's all you have to do. You don't have to go tell her what she did wrong. See, that creates harmony and love. And when you make the change, you have the power to create change in your life. Trying to change other people is not the answer. And that's what they keep trying to flood the ignorant people. You know, go out and demonstrate, go out and beat people up, go start fires, go do all this crazy stuff. Blame, 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 blame. Divide, 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 divide. This is a narrative trying to break down our society to make us more dependent on an authoritarian rule. See where
I'm sure you know Jack Canfield and Janet Switzer and the book they wrote called The Success Principles. One of the very first chapter, very first principle is take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. And that's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. And Jack's a good buddy of mine. We actually were in a men's group before we both became the biggest selling authors in the world. Wow. Actually, he's in America. Mine's in the world. laughing. We're
Wow.
buddies. We're competitive. We're playfully competitive. We did, we did the personal growth stuff. And Jack teaches also amazing classes on personal growth. And I have some
Yeah.
books on personal growth too, called How to Get What You Want. That's another book I wrote. And
Yeah.
and funny, it's learning how to break through your walls is what that whole book's about. And Jack
Wow.
teaches it as well. And we would visualize becoming best-selling authors in the future.
Wow.
That's how you do it. And it's
Wow.
in Think and Grow Rich. We're big fans of Think and Grow Rich. Now we're big fans
Yeah.
of Can You Really Think and Grow Rich? Ramey's story. It's
Yeah.
inspirational. He lives the principles to make money. And what I have is the principles to make your heart grow and love. And also Jack really focuses a lot on just the personal growth side of it, which is really, really powerful. Although in my classes, I do it all, but you find your
Wow.
niche. My niche is the relationship. Jack is his is the
Yeah.
processes. And one of those processes is imagine what you want, get in touch with what you want, write it out.
Yep.
I want. And then imagine it's happening. And then I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm excited and I'm proud. Then you bring in the positive feelings, associate positive feelings with having what you want before you have it. And that just starts growing the wiring. We're actually able to accept that much success in your life, but it also activates your brain. There's something called the reticular activating system in the brain, which if you're looking for something, then you just let it go and your brain starts looking for it. It continues looking for it. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And my example of that is back when I wrote my first book. It's called What You Feel You Can Heal. And this is back in 1985.
Wow.
And this is right at the time when Apple computers were everywhere, these little boxes, right? When it
Yep.
first came out. And if you lived where my office was, within a walking distance, there were at least 8 stores that said Apple computers here. Grocery stores were selling Apple computers.
Wow.
Copy stores were selling Apple. They were everywhere. It was like a toy, And my assistant said to me one day while I'm writing a book with a pencil, and she says, "John, you should get one of these Apple computers." And I said, "Okay, where do you buy them?" And she looked at me like I was a blind man or something. There's 8 of them right around the block. Are you kidding? Where do you buy them? But see, my reticular activating system wasn't looking for a computer, so it ignored it. Anybody can, if you need to rent an office, I know in LA, I remember that I was needing to rent another office. Suddenly, all I saw was for rent signs. That's all you see. And if you buy a new car, it's all you're going to see is somebody else who has that new car. You're looking for your money. You're looking for your family. Where are the other people? The brain goes to work for you. It does it, but it particularly does it if you write out what you're wanting. There's something powerful about writing it out. Even it's okay with a computer writing it out. It's even better when you're using your hand. If you realize there's all these connections between the fingers and the hands to your brain and to your higher self. That's why when they meditate, they do this, or here's a good meditation. You might try this one. When you put your fingers like this and you're in a meditative state, and supposedly what I've experienced, opens the heart, the throat, and the prefrontal cortex. So you suddenly, the energy just starts flowing there. And that's for setting goals and achieving and accomplishing and creating abundance in your life. So,
and I've read that it closes an energy loop inside of your body. So
yeah, it allows you to just keep. It's called sustained flow. You're just. My experience of that was after 4 years of diligent, regular meditation. Then, boom, something happened, and my experience was my mind has found its resting place, and that's what you get from learning how to meditate. For everybody wanting to learn, and women today can do it too because you have a male side activated. And it's just, your mind gets so busy and you just have to find a place where my mind has found it. I can just rest. My mind rests. I can just turn it on instantly. It's such a great power. Like, this is amazing. And then
do you know this guy?
Jim Cathcart, of course. Yes.
Jim,
so when he says, you put your goals in writing, you feel, see, and commit to making them tangible. No longer a dream. Now it's a reality. It's your brain works this way. You put it out there. But what people don't realize is actually writing with your hand. And there's sometimes where you can write affirmations with your other hand as well. It activates another part of your brain. Usually it's you use your right hand. It's activating your left cortex of your left side of the brain, but you want to bring in your intuitive side, which is your left hand brings in the intuitive side. And the intuitive side is also the feeling side of the brain. So you want to be able to feel and imagine having what you want. And that was my technique with Men Are From Mars when the book came out. That was after 10 years of, was it 10 years? Yeah, over 12 years of teaching classes on Men Are From Mars. And at the end of my classes, people will spend an hour or two sharing what these are the long weekend courses, what they learned. And then a part of that is they'll acknowledge to me what they're learning and how grateful they are. It's really wonderful. And so in my meditations, I would imagine putting out this book, Men Are From Mars, and having people come up to me and saying the very things people said in the workshop. So there was even more reality to it because I had experienced it. And then now I'm holding that vision as if more of that is happening. And that's why in sales, there's something called a yes set. A yes set is when you get a few good yeses, you get a stream of them because your mind is in the gear of thinking yes, yes, yes. At a certain point, you hit your ceiling and you'll crash back down, and you got to build it up again. And I was telling you,
is this where I should ask you to come back and be on the show again?
Okay, this is where you're at. See, I used to teach 7-day courses, 10 hours a day at my ranch.
Wow, John, you're amazing. You're
I love doing it. It's a pleasure to be with you. I think you'll get some questions from people from this talk. I'm happy to come back and we'll answer those questions and see where we'll go.
Well, we're on a bunch of Facebook pages and YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitter for the 2 people that still use Twitter. So I'm kidding. That was a joke. But John, you're amazing. You're hilarious and filled with so much wisdom. And I, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for spending all of this time. It's been incredible.
Thank you, Ken. Real pleasure from my side too. You have a great day.
I appreciate you. All right. So if you'll hang on for me, wait for me. I'm going to end the show and you and I can finish up real quick when we come back. So thank you all so much for watching. If you have not shared this out, you still have time to redeem yourself right now and share it out. So thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.